Try to tell them as we go through the process, and I mean even just weekly games, hey, enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never know when it comes to an end. You break your ankle and the season's over and you're done and whatever. So it's hard though. It's really hard because you're right there. You have a chance and you didn't quite get it done. And then when you get it done, and the 3 times we've done it, like I tell them, you'll never forget it, But what you'll really remember is all the things that led up to it. And I really believe that's true. And it's the same truth if you're second place or quarterfinal got beat or didn't make the play, whatever. It's all the things that led up to that is what you'll really remember.
It is the Fit for Radio podcast. I'm your host, Drew Tydeman, and we have a special guest in here with us today. I've been waiting to sit down with this guy. Now, we are at the Stafford Hills Club, a beautiful place where I work out and I work. You've got the suites here. You've got all the classes. You got a brand new workout facility there as well. It's incredible. Check it out, staffordhills.com. And if you like it, hit me up and I'll get you half off your initiation here at Stafford Hills. Right now, we've got a guy who is well known where I come from. His name is Steve Coury, and he is the head football coach, longtime coach at Lake Oswego High School, the home of the Lakers. How we doing, Steve?
Great, too. Good to be here. And this is a beautiful facility.
It really is.
Been here. It's really nice.
And you'll notice they tuck me way back in the corner here.
It's hijacked.
Yeah, it's much better for morale. But it is nice. I really enjoy it here, and I'm glad that we've got such a sweet place this close and just voted the best health and wellness facility in the Portland area, which is pretty legit.
I can see why.
Now, you have a long storied history here in the area, especially in Lake Oswego. You arrived to town in 1974 when your dad happened to be a coach for the Portland Storm. Now, the Portland Storm, for those who don't know, is part of the World Football League. Now, you educate me on this a little bit, Steve. Is that kind of that's one of the leagues that kind of tried to go at the NFL and do that thing?
I'm not sure they really tried to go at the NFL.
Or just to get a footprint.
Yeah, exactly. And they did it, in a time of season that the NFL wasn't conflicting, which was a smart idea. And that league lasted really a year and a half, if you will. I mean, it just didn't last, didn't have the money support. And then the NFL never really was excited about any other league coming in.
No, they do not love that action.
Yeah, back in the day, they had the AFL, and then they brought that one in after a while. That it stuck around. It looked like,
and that was the merger eventually, right? They were able to snag.
Exactly. And so that was the hope of the World Football League, but it never happened.
Now, where were they playing in the Portland area? Was it like Civic Stadium?
Civic Stadium.
Okay. Now the home of the Timber is all refurbished in Providence Park.
Really nice stadium. And there was a lot of interest really at the time. I was a high school kid, went to Lake Ridge High School, and I was a ball boy, running around down there. And there was, interest in the Portland area. They were really supportive of a team and a franchise that was kind of an unknown and how long it was going to be here and everything else.
Now, I just happened to go to that same high school that you went to, Lake Ridge, the Pacers, which, as we introduced you as the head coach of the Lakers, not the Pacers, that is the rivalry from across the lake, which you went from one side to the other. But we'll get to all that. In those days, Lake Ridge, now when I got there and I first saw the building, for anyone who never saw it, and it's remodeled now, you can't see it the way it was, but it was just like this really ugly, like spaceship looking, big white circle. And it hadn't been open very long by the time you got there.
When I got there, I think it might have been the third year. It might have been the third year that the school's in existence. And so when we moved in the area, we loved Lake Oswego area, and that was the newest school and, had all the modern things. And Coach Smythe, who was a longtime, well-known high school coach, was there too. So that was the attractive part of it for my family. First was just the area. The school just fit right in.
Now, the school was a little bit baby brother mode. Like, I went to school in the 90s, and our home football stadium was your Laker stadium. So every other week, it would be a Lake Ridge home game or Lake Oswego home game. And then every other year, this was the crazy part, the Lakers, who this is their home field, would have to go sit on the away bench and the away stands when we would be the home team. So it was a very strange, it was like we were almost like renting a space.
Right. You're right. And it's kind of funny, Drew, because when I got to Lake Oswego High School as the coach, and as we went along in the years, that became a huge issue for them. When I was there and when you were going to school, I never even thought of it really. It wasn't a big deal. We just went across town and we played there and we were in the locker room, you know what I mean? And then every other year we were the home team. So I never really thought of it. But I think when we started to build the program at Lake Oswego High School, then it became a little bit of an issue for Lake Ridge. And I understand it completely. And now they've got a great stadium right on campus and it's good for both schools, I think.
Yeah. And it's nice. It's new. It's things like that. But I mean, it could be a little more beastly, because they just kind of they had to round the edges in that neighborhood to like pull it off. Because forever you had
lights,
all those owners dragging their feet because now you're going to bring those lights.
You're right.
And it's going to be a thing.
A lot of times what happens in those situations is it could be one or two neighbors. They can hold it up for years. You know what I mean?
It doesn't take much.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they did that to curtail it a certain way. But it's a nice stadium, and again, right there on our campus. So then they don't have to come over to our place to play, and it's good again for both schools.
It is, and it keeps you under the cover at the games. Like I mean, when Lake Oswego High School is over there in the sideways rain on the away bench, you're probably starting
you feel good about it.
Yeah, exactly. So when you were playing though at Lake Ridge, you were no slouch, much more than a ball boy. You were a great player as well. Now, you defensive back or wide receiver?
I was a running back.
You were a running back.
You look at me now and think I'm a guard, but I was a running back back in the day. And
that's awesome.
Coach Smythe's system. And, the other thing that's ironic really is Coach Smythe, great coach, was a great friend of mine. He passed away, about 2 years ago now. But our teams, the two teams that we had the previous years when they first started the program, they were really good teams. And I think they went into the semifinals, maybe quarterfinals, whatever. Then when I got there, the two teams that I played on, because I was there my junior year, my senior year, were two of the most average teams that they
Really?
Yeah, it really was. And back then, Milwaukee High School was kind of the best team in the league. And they took one team to the playoffs. And so we never made the playoffs when I was there.
The Mustangs took your spot.
Man, they did. It's hard to believe nowadays when you look at it. I think they're even 5A, so yeah, it was but different back then for sure.
And you were able to play so well that even when the Portland Storm kind of dismantled and it was time for your family to move on, you decided that you weren't going to go with them?
I had moved here originally, like we talked about, from Denver. In my sophomore year at Denver, I was playing and I was being recruited at that time. So then we moved. I just didn't want to move another time, thinking the recruiting part of it, with my respect. Hey, you got to follow me all the way now to California. So a lady that was teaching at the high school, Letty Owens. I don't know if you ever remember Letty Owens there.
I don't. She might have been done by the time I came through.
She was there for a lot of years. So she was an honors English teacher, which means I never had her.
And that's probably why I don't know either.
I didn't know. So she offered her home for me to stay. And the plan was to stay through football season and go join my family in San Diego. And I ended up staying all year. And she passed away a couple of years ago. But great family, great, great, great friends of mine. She was like family to me. And it worked out unbelievably from a relationship, from being able to stay and then, stayed around here to play at Oregon State.
And you'd know better than me, like in the education world, but it's kind of an old school story, right? Like, how often do you hear about a student just living with a teacher? And now there's all these safeguards in place, and
you're exactly right. And for her to step up and take me on and not really know me, other than I was a kid that went to school and football player and that kind of stuff, but I really didn't know her, and to take me into her family. And she had a younger daughter that was Rachel, that was a freshman. And that's even more gutsy,
Yeah, you've got a teenage boy and this
exactly.
and the new girl. There's a lot going on
There's
there.
a lot happening. And so she was a saint, and again, our relationship just went from there to she was just awesome. And her husband, just great. It really was. I was very blessed.
It just shows that while it is good to have safeguards, that old school sometimes is better.
Old school can be pretty good at times, that's for darn sure.
It really can. And you made the right decision, though, because you took off or you didn't take off with the family. You stayed through the year, and that led to a scholarship offer. Is it from the Beavs?
Yeah, it was. I, had a few offers to traveled around a little bit to see schools, and I just loved Oregon. I really fell in love with Oregon when we came here, and I really wanted to stay in the state, and it was fortunate that I was able to do that at Oregon State. And I almost went to Oregon and ended up at Oregon State, and I still got great friends, now that played with me and were with me at school at Oregon State. It was a great decision and a great experience.
It's quite a brotherhood that those types of teams do build over the course of your time there. I am a Duck. I would have liked you to make the other decision.
Go.
But you've already flipped across the lake on me. I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to it. I can handle it. So when you're playing at Oregon State, what's that like? Because it's still the early days of Oregon State. So from what I've been told, and I never was there, obviously at that time, but then they used to have like a grass hill that people could like come and either like just come to the game, or you buy like a couple dollar ticket. Like,
yeah, you could kind of sit outside of the stadium
and see
and see some of the game. I don't know if they were as a great vantage point, and we struggled. We didn't win many games. It was in the hard times there at Oregon State, but it's probably a lesson that I learned too. It's a lot more than just winning. I look today and the friends I have, a couple guys that coach with me now that have coached with me since I've taken the Lake Oswego job.
Wow.
Yeah, great friends.
That's awesome.
Families have been raised together. And so many good things came out of going to school there, and then the winning very few games was just part of the experience.
Now the Beaver thing that helps you with your education, and you had a scholarship, so things are going good there. After you're done with school, what's the plan?
The first plan was I wanted to kind of see what it was like to continue to play. So I went up to Canada and I played up there for a year, and I went back my second year and got cut, and rightly so. I was always too small and too slow. At some point I was going to get cut sooner than later, and then after that, it was, my dad is in coaching, and my dad passed away again a few years back. But so I loved football, and I loved when I played, and I loved the idea of coaching. And I was very fortunate. I went down to Southern California with a friend of the family's and took a job down there at Crespi High School, which was a private school, and was a PE teacher. So I'd roll the ball out and, let the kids play. But
nice
for about 6 months. And then my dad got head coaching job in the USFL, and he hired me. And so I got to coach with my dad for 3 years. I love the coaching. And so it was, that's where I wanted to go, got married and my life just started really.
So when you're coaching with your dad, that's pretty cool, right? Like that's got to be memories that you've got locked in of having that opportunity to, kind of be shoulder to shoulder with him during that time.
It was awesome, and in the coaching profession, at the level my dad got to was big time college, and then it was in the pros for a number of years, not home a lot. You're really gone a lot of hours and stuff. And my mom's a saint. I'm one of 7 kids, and she raised us, and my dad not being around as much. So it was made up time, really, when we coached together. And then later on in life, when he retired, he came up here and worked with us.
Really?
For about 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Even better.
You had the ultimate analyst there.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't want to say too much, but it was fun having him around. It really was.
That is super cool. Now you're doing that with him. You've dipped your toe in the water of a PE teacher, and you're probably not heading back in that direction, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I really was. I kind of saw myself as a guy that was going to be coaching the rest of my life and at a high level, and wanted to someday maybe be the head coach at Oregon State or wherever. You know what I mean? So, and those are goals that are way down there, and are they reachable? Well, who knows? I'm so young in the profession. And then the USFL, where I was with my dad, that disbanded. And I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and I was at the University of Pittsburgh for 3 seasons. And I had my first 2 of my 3 kids born there. So I was on the same path as my dad was,
Yeah.
which means not around a lot. My wife was awesome. You got to have a special person to be a coach's wife. And she was great raising the kids, but I didn't want any part of that. So I walked in one day, honestly, out of the blue to Coach Godfrey, who was a head coach at the time, and said, Coach, I'm quitting, retiring, whatever. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm just done after this year.
Oh my God, that's a bold move.
It was really bold. Well, you ought to see it when I went home to my wife and told her.
Oh, you hadn't told her yet.
Oh, no,
you did. Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, no, I know.
You cold quit your job?
Still with me. It's
Yeah.
45 years. So,
I mean,
cold quit, and I'm telling you, for me, it was a family decision. I wanted to be around my kids. I want to raise my kids. I wanted to be at their lunches. I want to coach them in little league, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You made the right decision. You just probably should have called somebody.
I kind of found that out before. when it was all done, it was like, she was like, you did what? What are you going to do? And that's when I said, not sure. But anyway, what I did know is I wanted to raise my kids here in Oregon. I loved Oregon. I wanted to come back home and have my family here. And that was the driving force. And I'm a believer in things just kind of work out, and eventually they did.
I always tell people wherever I go how special of a place Lake Oswego is, and even people who live in the same state and in the Portland area, there's like a stigma where they're like, oh, you guys in the lake and the bubble and all this stuff.
Right.
But all those things, all that people like point at, a lot of those things are the things, the safety, the comfort, the family environment that is here. It's really an incredible place.
It is. I agree with you totally. It's a special place. And I tell families that are coming into the area and kids, that football player kids, hey, there's trouble if you want to find it. It doesn't matter that you're in.
It's everywhere.
And we've got, families that struggle. And I mean, we've got everything here in Lake Oswego that others have. Not as much, obviously. And we're very fortunate, but it's a beautiful place, and I've moved around a lot in my time. People make the place. And there's no better people than Oregonians, first off, and Lake Oswego people, for sure.
Now, I moved away from the area. I went to University of Oregon, then lived in Eugene, Oregon, doing radio shows for 16 years of that process. And I was always like, I'm not going back to Lake Oswego. I'm when you're a teenager, you think like you're going to go live in like San Diego or something. Wheels up, baby.
Time, yeah.
And my oldest daughter, I have 3 kids now. My oldest daughter, just about 10 years ago, when she was 4 months old, I had already moved back here and had decided I was going to try to send my kids to the same schools I went to. And now my kids actually go to the same grade school that I went to.
I know the feeling, man. I know what you mean about it. And you want to raise them the right way. You want them around the right people. You want them to have opportunities, on and on and on. And it's all here.
And so many of the, and this goes for everywhere that you have these types of communities, that I still have core friends and people that I associate with time and time again. Actually, one of those people is the person who gave me your phone number. It's like that, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the friendship is
all right here.
It's forever.
It's that way, and I also tell our kids, some of our players, when they're looking at places to go, that one thing about here, and I can, attest to it, is people are loyal, and again, we didn't win a lot of games at Oregon State when I was playing there. But I run into people all the time that remember me and remember my name, and, who used to watch you play, whatever. Just a lot of loyalty here, which is hard to find sometimes in people.
It really is. And you do an incredible job of what you end up doing when you get to Lake Oswego. But I want to touch a little bit on that gray area between Pittsburgh and telling your wife that I've quit the job. You're looking for what's next. There's got to be something. Everything happens for a reason. And, I'm kind of in this same crossroads in my own life where it's like you kind of have to take a leap of faith and you have to make a decision and live with it. Right. So where did you go from there?
So, and that's it's interesting if you're looking into my life and what happened. So I come back from Pittsburgh. When I left here the 3 years previously, great friend of mine, Carl Holberg, who played with me at Oregon State, he's now coached with me for all my years. He told me when I left, said, if you ever want to come back, I'll have a job. He had a family run business. And so anyway, so after shocking my wife, I got on the phone and called Carl and I said, "Hey man, do you remember?" And he said, "Absolutely. You come back, I'll have something for you." So I came back. He put me to work. His family owned it was in the trucking industry. Well, I don't even know how to put gas in my car, you know what I mean? And I'm now selling dump bodies is what it was. So
Okay.
anyway, so Carl put me to work and that was the start of it all. And then after about 2.5, 3 years that I was here, the Lake Oswego High School job became available, but it was in the summertime, and which is a bad time to try to find a coach because there's no teaching job. And so they were in a real bind. And a guy, Keith Hertstrom, do you remember Keith?
He was my high school counselor.
Yep. Great guy and great friend. And I always stayed in touch with him. He knew I was back in town. So he contacted Dick Curtis, and Dick was the athletic director at Lake Oswego. And he said, I know you guys are in a bind. This guy's back in town. You should talk to him. So Dick calls me up and says, hey, but how about, man, I've got a job and I can't. So he kept after me. I went and visited with him and went with the principal and all that stuff. And anyway, I came back couple days later to Carl and I said, hey, you wouldn't believe this, but these guys, oh man, you need to do it. And I said, are you kidding? And he said, no, you need to. I said, okay, if I do it, you do it.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, okay. So I told the school, I'll do it for 1 year. And I said, then you need to get somebody in the school because you need to do it the right way. You got to have somebody that's connected with the kids and a teacher. Yep. Like you and I grew up, we always, the guys that were coaching were the guys that were teaching.
Yep.
So I think we were one of the first groups that wasn't the case, so he hired me. And the interesting part, I hope I'm not going too far on this thing. The interesting part of it is every job, and I've had 3 different jobs since then. Every job that I had, moving up each time, came from being the coach at Lake Oswego. A guy that played the lady that hired me, Oregon Chief Meats. Now all of a sudden I'm selling bacon, right?
Yeah.
And she was a gal, Dee Dee Marriott, and her family had the Oregon Chief Meat. You might even remember that.
Yeah.
I went to work for her because her son played at LO. Then a few years later, a guy that graduated from Lake Oswego had heard of me and, on and on. So he hired me and I was selling carpet. And so then the next job I have after that, a good friend that Jim Mendenhall went to Oregon State, saw me play there, but he was a Lake Oswego grad. So he came to me and said, hey, I'd like to help you do anything, whatever. We became great friends. And then he ended up getting a franchise with this Field Turf, which is a synthetic grass.
Yeah.
And brought me along as a partner in it. So
that's incredible.
Fate, man, it really was.
And the sense of community. It comes back to
all the things that we talk about and things you love about it here, and
100%. And it's the same type of things. Like as I was going through this transition into podcasting from radio, and it's like the floodgates opening up of all, not just support. Anybody can say like, hey, I hope it works out.
Right.
But like there are people here that actually care about you so much that they reach across the table to help you, and
they don't just tell you, hey, I'll call the guy for you or I'll give you a call. It happens.
They do the legwork.
Yeah, sure do.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. As it is always mentioned on this show, it is the highest ranked health and wellness club in the Portland area. But to me, it's so much more. It's a family. And whether you choose to bring your family here or find family here, the Stafford Hills Club is a happy, inviting, warm place that you can find friends and you can hang with your buds as well, whether it's out by the pool in the sunshine or inside by the fireplace with a book. You'll see people at tables playing board games, grabbing lunch, and not just working out here, but hanging out here. So check out all of the amenities, the quality gym, of course, the classes, Pilates reformer, and so much more. StaffordHills.com for all the information. And tell them Drew sent you for half off your initiation at the Stafford Hills Club. Now, all that support from different people helping you work a career into this whole coaching thing kind of helps build the program so that you're able to stay with them for an extended amount of time. Now, you said you were going to do it for a year. How does that go from a year? Like, did you fall in love with it straight away, or did you just did you wake up one day and you
Really
were
what
been
it
in it?
was, yeah, really what it was is first, it was the first love, for me. I mean, this is really what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? In fact, when I first came back, I looked into getting back into teaching, get a teaching certificate and all that. And
Hmm.
I just financially couldn't do it at the time, a couple of kids, and it just didn't fit that way. But it allowed me the coaching part thing I love to do, so it became a passion first
Hmm.
off. And then it just worked out with the jobs that I had. And they were sales jobs and they were commission jobs. So if I didn't sell, I didn't make any money. You know what I mean? So you're motivated from that standpoint. And it led to opportunities, not only job wise, but even within the business. People buy and say, "Oh, you coach at Lake Oswego," so
Hmm.
it became something that kind of went hand in hand with the jobs that I was doing. And so it just worked out. And then we had a third kid here. And again, I look back and I am so thankful I did what I did, because now my kids are older. We have some grandkids, my wife.
Nice.
It's great. But I was with my kids. I was at those luncheons and I was
Hmm.
helping them with baseball. And I was, all the things that a dad you want to do.
And that's what matters in the end,
It is.
and people, I hate to say this, but people who don't have kids don't realize that if you don't do those things straight away, there's a lot of regret in that.
And it goes by. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden it's gone. And one thing about it, you never get it back. So
Yes.
I realized that, I think probably from growing up, I never had, regrets from my dad or anything like that. In the way we grew up, we had a great life.
Hmm.
But, he wasn't around a lot. You know what I mean? And I just didn't want to, I wanted to be a part of it all. And I couldn't have made a better decision in anything that I've done other than be around my kids. And they're still around here, except my youngest. He's now in San Diego, but the other ones are here. And again, we have 6 grandkids.
That's awesome.
It's full circle and life's beautiful.
Well, trophies and medals and titles, they don't give you grandkids.
That's exactly right. And and this I tell our teams every year, who won it, like in our situation 5 years ago?
Hmm.
No one knows, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you were the one winning it, you would have known it. But so it's those things fade away.
Now,
Things you and I are talking about don't fade away.
they don't. It is worth saying, though, that people do remember who won it last year, and that's you.
We sure do.
Yeah. And Lake Oswego was always it was always a pretty good program in the '90s when I was going to school, and like the rivalry between the two sides of the lake were always leaned a little Lake Oswego, but really the tipping point on that post 2000 like really started to take off. You guys made some runs.
We did. Again, a lot of good players, we have great coaches, guys that were with me for years and years. The youth program was growing, so that means people down there are doing so much. And
Hmm.
when we first got there it was 92, Lake Ridge had beaten LO 16 years in a row.
Whoa.
Yeah, 16 years in a row. So it was very one-sided.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that something? And
Yeah.
and then,
Where was I during those days?
yeah,
Come on
what's
now.
going on? I can't believe you didn't remember
I'm
that.
not a very lucky dude.
So yeah, it was really the rivalry was actually kind of not there because it was
Hmm.
so easy for them to win. And then our very first year, and they were, if you were doing a point spread, they would have been 40-point spread on us, and we beat them. And just a very lucky, they just didn't show up. One of those deals.
Hmm. Ball bounced your way.
Exactly. And so from that point on, the rivalry kind of came back because now it was a little bit more even. And so we've had pretty good success against them. And
Hmm.
things change and it, reverts back and all those kind of things. But it's been a fun rivalry. And I think, there were some bitter years in there, which I didn't like, but
Yeah.
now it's back to, the guy over there, Spencer Phillips, has done a great job, and it's back to just respect. And it's one great city and 2 schools, so for 1 week out of the year, yeah, it's like Oregon State. It's
Yeah.
just the way it should be. But rooting them on after that, that's the way it should be too.
And I hear great things about Spencer as well. And at some point, I'd love to have him in here to sit down, because it is important to support the other side. And I'm the same way with Oregon State and the Beavers as a Duck fan, and with what we've dealt with the last couple of years with the coach turnover, and then kind of getting sucked out of the entire conference
Right.
and everything.
Real changes.
There are real Duck fans do not like to see any of this. We don't like to see you just keep getting pushed down. It's like, and I won't say little brother. I'll just say your brother.
Totally get it.
Nobody, even if I am going to mess with you in the car, I don't want to sit and watch somebody punch you in the ear.
Right.
Like, there's no fun in that. It's not what we're here for. What we want to see is Oregon State come up, battle hard, and of course they still want to win that game.
Right. Sure.
But
and you're rooting for Oregon to keep going in the national championship thing. Dan Lanning, he's been by the school a couple times. What a great guy. I mean, I love the guy, and I love what he stands for, and I respect so much of the way he is, and not afraid to be out front with what he believes and thinks and everything else. After that game that they got beat, I mean, he just cared about his kids. I say kids, his players.
But that's how you treat them, though, right? Like
that's exactly right.
The father in you has got to come out in these moments as you're coaching up these guys.
You're right. I pride myself in running the football program at LO like my family. I really do. I mean, that's the way I run. I love the kids. I treat them with respect. I kick them in the rear end if they need it. I'm honest.
Tough love when
it needs to be tough love, and hugging them a lot and telling them you love them a lot. And, it's a family thing.
And they'll play harder for you. And beyond just the play, it's when this is said and done, the friend of ours who kind of got us in contact and put us on a group email, and he's talking about meeting up and having coffee with you. And I mean, he's 44 years old, and he's long gone from
It means the world to me.
And it means the world to him.
Yeah.
And it means the world to all these guys.
It's really cool.
That program is special to them, and it's because of the environment that you guys have built over there.
And again, and I'm always the one sitting in front of people or getting credit for it, but it takes a lot of people. I've got a group of guys that are unreal, and they're like me in certain ways, and they know what I like and how I want it to be. And they're all part of that, and our families grow up together, and our wives are good friends. It's like one big family, and it's been so fun and so cool to be able to do it. And I know that the kids see it, and the kids sense it, and the kids learn from it. I know that for a fact, because guys like Nathan, your buddy, coming back, and we have a great relationship and a great friendship, and it's all built way back when he was a junior in high school or whatever.
Exactly, and it's a interesting place here. Just to go back to the environment where we are is, where back in the late 90s. I think it was like 90% of my graduating class went to college. Right. Like, that's insanity anywhere else. I mean, maybe it was 80 something, but it was up there. If your name wasn't on the university chart somewhere, like, it was like, did they disappear?
Where'd they go? Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of that is that a lot of people, they work hard, they're smart kids or whatever, but then they find success, right, and they come full circle on that success. And so it's got to be cool for you to see people who, even especially the ones that you had to coach up a little bit. Like,
you're right. The greatest ones are the ones that didn't have all the things in life. You know what I mean? And they needed a little more direction and a little more guidance and what have you. And there are so many success stories through my career there that those are the good feeling ones. They really are. But we have a thing, kind of a standing date, if you will, on Thanksgiving Day. If we are still practicing, we have an alumni deal, and guys that are home or whatever show up, right? And when we first started that, it was the quarterfinals, when you got into the quarterfinals. And it's hard to get places, right?
No, absolutely.
And we've been to a lot of those. But then it changed, the calendar changed, and then it was you had to be in the semifinals. And then it's like, okay, that's harder, so will we have as many of those? And we've been fortunate to have, quite a few. And then now it's the finals.
Now you have to be at the peak of the mountain just to get an alumni dinner.
These guys here. So the last one we had 110 guys show up, and then some of them had their kids, and It was really cool, and it's not an advertised thing. The kids know it. The kids from the past programs know it,
And
and
it's just kind of a chain reaction.
exactly, and they know we're practicing at 10 in the morning, and they know it's on Thanksgiving Day. We're still in the playoffs.
I mean, for you, that's got to be up there with all the other accolades.
It's the most yeah, it's the one that makes me feel the best. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Again, like you said earlier, having the trophy at the end of the deal, no one really remembers that after time. We do, and we always will.
Hmm.
But it's the guys that needed the help, that got the help, that changed their life, that now come back and thank you, that went off to the Iraq war and wrote you a letter,
Hmm.
and all the things that really, really matter. That's why I've done it for so long. That's why the guys that are with me have stayed with me for so long. It's so satisfying. And again, we've grown up together and our families have grown up together. Now I have kids. I keep calling them kids, but guys that coach with me that played for me. I've got, I think, 5 or 6 guys on my staff.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool? So,
And it kind of shows the kids that are there now that, there's not necessarily that you're going to come coach here, but we're building relationships that endure decades.
right. And we talk about this all the time. It's in our locker room. Tradition never graduates, right? So we talk about, I run it the same way today as I did back when those guys were there. Maybe a tweak here and there, but the standards, they've never changed and they never will as long as I'm there. And our kids that have played there understand that. Now the guys that are coaching with me, and it's nice to have younger guys because they can relate their social media world, all the things that kids can, our younger coaches can.
They can be on the pulse of all that.
Exactly. And me, I don't even know how to get on it.
Yeah, exactly. Coaches on Snapchat over here trying to relate to the freshmen.
Yeah, I don't know what Snapchat is other than I hear it.
See,
Yeah, you're right. So it works out all the way around.
yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, and I think that's how you continue to be successful is to surround yourself with people who are connected to the next technology or the next way of communication with these kids. And,
Right. You're right. Just keeps going. You know what I mean? It carries itself. And someday when I'm gone and not coaching anymore, the chances of it surviving and keeping going, which is the most important thing, how it's run and how you treat the kids and all those things.
yeah.
Still going to be there.
Now you've got, since you have these younger guys there was a chance to just keep this legacy going because when you do decide to hang it up, you've built an entire system of other coaches who are, if they played for you, then they're going to have more longevity in the system.
And that's really been the plan, to get those guys. In fact, one of them that is Steve Smith's his name. He played quarterback for me and he coached with me for about 7 years with me. And then I said to him, because he's a guy that can take it over at some point. And I said to him, you need to go to another place. You need to go to another school, see what it's like somewhere else, get a feel for something other than Coach Coury's way of doing things. And
yeah.
So he did that. He went to a school around here for a couple of years, I think 3 years. And then he came back and then now he's running my defense for me. But it's a great experience to go away because my way isn't the only way for sure. And is it the right way? Is it things I can learn from others, all that kind of stuff. And it was a great experience for him. And now coming back, he knows, how he wants to do it. He wants to take whatever I'm doing and put it into his own system someday. We'll see what that's going to look like.
That is cool. And it is good to, kind of be a sponge of other people's stuff. Like, how do you work that for yourself? Because I know you said that you have your system and you kind of have like the bare bones stuff of the way that it goes, which I think your success speaks for itself. But do you constantly look for other motivators, other people like the Dan Lannings who are revolutionizing kind of how we're motivating these young student athletes to try and incorporate?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of that, to be very honest, but a guy like that really intrigues me. So I try to follow some of the things that he comes out with. And that school and that program does such a great job of marketing. You can get inside of it, it feels like to me. I also met the Oregon State, the new coach. He came by the school yesterday.
His energy is special.
Oh, God, you would.
It is special.
It really is, and that's the way I felt. He walked in the office, and our office people there, secretaries and everything else, everybody said the same thing. He'd spent time with people, and he was really, really good. When he left, I told my wife, I said, I'd love to play for him. I really would. I mean, he's just an impressive guy. I hope he can do a great job there. But as a person and the things he talks about, he's right on the money and really had a lot of respect. So I love listening to those kind of guys talk and try to pick things up from them
Yeah.
and how they do things.
My ears perked up when he did his press conference. Not even the press conference. I think he was just like in a Q&A, and his energy
He
just
lights the room up, doesn't he, man?
oh, he does.
Yeah.
You don't need the lights on, that's for sure. And I thought to myself, this guy might have hope here because he needs players who love him.
Right.
He needs he needs people to want to play for the energy.
Exactly. Right.
Because the conference is in disarray. And maybe it's going to figure itself out.
And Oregon State we are what we are. You know what I mean? Our limits are our limits.
Yeah.
There's schools all across the country. Everybody's got limits. You know what I mean? So, hey, let's accept it and then let's move on. And that seems to be what he'll do. You know what I mean? He's going to recruit kids and be around kids, man, a little bit like the Indiana guy. He's not going to get caught up on 5 stars or whatever. He wants good players, but he's going to be more about treating the kids right and play for him, like you said. Now, if I'm offered $1 million to go over here, then I'm a kid and I don't blame him. You know what I mean? And he won't either. But anyway, very impressive guy.
Yeah, he definitely has that feel that he could get this thing done.
I agree with you.
He could also make a phone call to NVIDIA that got the amount of
one call,
the amount of money. Like just if they could just even sprinkle their finger in that direction, I think that would help.
That's for sure. If we could just get this guy a little interested in sports.
Yeah, exactly. How does he not love football?
I know it somehow.
I know, and I do thank my lucky stars that Phil Knight does love football.
Yeah, Phil's great, and he's been great for Oregon and really for all of sports with Nike and all the things they've done.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough to have like families cross over with him and his family, and they're great people.
I'll bet.
And pretty down to earth for the planet that they live on.
Absolutely.
Now I want to get into a little bit about your legendary run at Lake Oswego. Now from 1992 until current day, 34 years and change of you being there. Now, you've won the state title 3 times?
Yeah, 3 times.
But you've been up there. I feel like, and even when I would live away, they're like, who's playing in the championship today? And it's just like, I felt like a lot of times you guys have been on the doorstep too. I mean, you've made some deep runs.
Yeah, we really have. We've had some good teams and it's hard to win it. Oregon, they've got a good football team, but it's hard to win it. So we've been really fortunate. I think we've been in 9 championship games.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and we've won it the 3 times you're talking about. And probably, I would say, looking back, maybe 2 other times that we were the better team, in my opinion, and I think others might share that saying, and didn't win it. It's just hard to win it. And we've been to, I think, 12 or 13 semifinals and 16 or 17 quarterfinals. So we've been a very good team and a good program for a lot of years. And again, there's so much credit that goes on to all the guys that coach with me, the players we have, the families in this area, all that stuff. Because you don't have that kind of success by just doing it myself, for sure, and just having good coaches or just having good players. Or takes a lot.
So everyone can imagine the speech when you win it. And it's exciting, and it's like, it's out of the varsity blues thing. You're like, oh, we got him, and the whole thing. But I'm more interested because that's awesome, and everybody can live in that. When you get to the final and you lose, and you're in the locker room with the guys afterwards, and they're kids,
right?
They're not adults; they're kids, and they get hurt, and they're crushed,
right?
And they've put in, since the middle of the summer till now. What do you say to them? How do you approach that?
That is such a great question because it's a hard position to be in, really. What do you say? I always take our teams when we get into those quarters, semis, whatever, and before we go back into the locker room, before we, after warm-ups, I tell them, hey, stop, look around. You know what I mean? This is big time. You're where you're at for a reason. you've earned it, whatever. But this is it. The problem is when you get all the way to the finals and get beat, you forget about all the things to get there. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I'm constantly at that point trying to remind, hey, this has been great. It doesn't help really.
Yeah.
And the good thing about kids, man, by the time they get in the bus and start heading home, they're on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
great. That's the way it should be. And but I try to tell them as we go through the process, and I mean even just weekly games, hey, enjoy it. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
never know when it comes to an end. You break your ankle and the season's over and you're done and whatever. So it's hard though. It's really hard because you're right there. You have a chance and you didn't quite get it
Hmm.
done. And then when you get it done, and the 3 times we've done it, like I tell them, you'll never forget it. But what you'll really remember is all the things that led up to it. And I really believe that's true. And it's same truth if you're second place or quarterfinal got beat or didn't make the final, whatever. It's all the things that led up to that is what you'll really remember.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by the fine people at the Stafford Hills Club. When you come here, you'll notice a difference between this place and other clubs because there's a warm, happy environment that's inviting, wanting you to be here. All kinds of activities for you and your family, including that beautiful pool and the grill opening up for you to catch some sunshine and relax, which we could all use a little of that after a long winter. So check them out today, staffordhills.com, for all of the amenities from workout facilities to tennis to swimming and so much more. Tell them Drew sent you for half off your initiation at the Stafford Hills Club. So when you get done with a season and you're coming back for the next year, daily doubles or whatever they're called these days,
Uh-huh.
you're doing the whole thing. And how do you heed expectations for a group like, say, this group that just won the state title, and now they're going to come back to you in August or whatever? How are you going to, because you've dealt with that before, you've won a couple of championships. How are you going to get those guys into a thing where they're not doing the big man on campus thing,
Right.
that they're not expecting victories? Because that's a good way to lose.
Right. No, you're exactly right. So I actually start on it now, where we start meeting with the senior kids as a group and just talk about leadership and what that looks like in the off-season program and what else we doing and how we treating the young kids and talk about that tradition never graduates. Okay, now you guys are taking the program over. You saw what it was like the last couple of years because you've been on the varsity as a sophomore or whatever. And so I kind of relate it to what they've seen, how they've seen it run. And then so do that for a couple of months. And I think that the kids understand that are in the program that a couple of things, everybody's important, so there's got to be a buy-in for that. And it's the way you treat them really that they'll buy into it. And, you got to put time in, it takes time. I know you got other things to do and I want you to play other sports and you got family, but there's 24 hours in a day, so get something done and we got to do it together. We got to find that time to be together and do things. So start kind of building the team camaraderie. The other thing that the guys know is I don't put up with individualism and body language and some of the things that
Showboating and the whole deal.
showboating and the whole deal. So that's just built into the program. So the transition part's really good. I got to tell you, in my 34 years, there was one team that I've had that I kind of said after that year with our coaching staff, I will not have a group like that again, or I won't coach. And
They were too showtime? Is that
too showtime, too much about myself, too cliquish, it's the things that happen within a locker room, really. So I wasn't going to let that happen again. I wasn't ever going to be a part of it. And some of it, is the kids that you had, and so forth. And it's the scary thing about kids transferring in is because they're not grown up in it. You know what I mean? So you take a real chance
the
with
chemistry?
the chemistry thing. And you talk about our success and the teams. We've had good chemistry for years and years and years. Doesn't mean you win, but you can't win without it.
And I didn't even think about that with the transfer kids, because people on the outside looking in be like, well, you got to transfer, which they're likely good or this and that, but they might not fit.
Right.
Emotionally and with the whole, ebb and flow of the team. And if they come in and they're like, just give me the ball,
Right.
that's not what we're here for.
That's exactly right. It doesn't fit. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so and I'm very honest with people that are looking into the transfer idea, and we've benefited from it. There's been some great kids that have come in,
Yeah, of
but they all
course.
fit, and if they
Mhm.
don't fit, it's going to be very apparent. And anybody that's gone through my program or our program will tell you, I don't care who you are. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I've kicked guys off the team. I kicked a kid off one year that was the all-state nose guard right before the semifinal game. It was like Tuesday of the semifinal. He broke team rules, and I don't have a bunch of rules, but I didn't care who he was. That
Yeah.
didn't matter. And
You're not exempt.
not exempt. And I think that's always what the kids understand too. And
Mhm.
they respect it. I think if you give kids a line, that's what they want, really. And they'll put their toe a little bit maybe over it. If you cross way over it, then there's gonna be a consequence.
And quite honestly, those kids who got their foot near that line and they're kind of tickling it, and then you just boot off the all-state nose guard, that foot slides back pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly.
It's a
and
William
far.
Wallace move, is what it is.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Now, you touched on something for a second when you said playing other sports, and I would love to get your opinion on this because I've got kids in sports. I've got nephews and nieces who are real in depth in the lacrosse world,
Right.
and so a lot of these
Great
sports, it is a great sport, and soccer's a great sport, football's a great sport, but what you're finding a lot at a young age now is they're kind of pressuring you to pick a lane.
Not kind of.
Full blown,
Yeah.
full court press.
Right.
And so it's like, so are you with us or are you not? And, it puts you in a tough position because when you've got like a fifth grader who I need to make a decision about what sport they're going to be good at. Like, am I completely altering their path because you want me to choose now?
Right.
So I guess it raises the question, how do you feel about the single sport idea? Or do you find benefit in them
I
crossing?
tell you, we're doing our kids an injustice by the things you're talking about, in my opinion. I think that, let me give you a statistic from a football standpoint, right? And it's the same thing in football too, where I'm now doing 7-on-7 all year, and I'm a football player all year round. But in the 3% of all sports in high school, all sport athletes, 3% go on to play at the next level. 3% of them. Think of that. Okay, so now all these fifth graders and sixth graders and guys that we're having specialize, for what? Is it
Mhm.
going to win you a state championship? Or
Yeah, you got 3%.
yeah, that are going to go on and get school paid for and everything
Mhm.
else. So the other thing is, when I have guys, coaches come in to recruit, I'm not kidding you either, Drew. The first thing they want to know is, what other sport do you play? And the reason for that is a couple of things. They want to see them in a different pressure situation. They want to
Mhm.
see how they react with other players and on their own team, how they react to adversity, in a game. They want to watch a basketball game, a lacrosse game, and I'm talking about football players now. And they want to see other things and how they perform. It's not
Mhm.
just about the football. So, and if you go back in the NFL drafts, they'll tell you all those guys that are drafted, they're high percentage of them are 2-sport, 3-sport athletes. 3 sports is hard anymore, but at
It
least
is.
2-sport athletes in high school. And these are the highest, athletic kind of guys that you have. So
Yeah.
I think as parents, we need to just step back, let the kids have fun, do as much as you can in the sports world, let them enjoy it.
Yeah.
The other stuff will take care of itself. If you're good enough to play, it's going to come out that way. They're going to find you, and on and on and on. So I would hope that we can change this trend.
Yeah, and and you might find this interesting, and I don't know if you agree with it or not, but I had a coach from Seattle Prep on, Travis Cole, and he was telling me,
Travis Cole from Lake.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
coached with me a couple of years.
Oh, he
Great
did.
guy.
Yeah, he is a great
I'm sorry
guy.
to interrupt
No. It's a small world in the coaching
you. It is.
thing. Now, he said that the reason he wants his players playing other sports is because they're working different muscles, like whereas in you do one sport, you get real good, like certain muscles in your arm, throwing the lacrosse ball are all going to be doing a thing one way. But then if you change sports in the off season, then maybe you're starting to improve the muscles on the outside of your legs or the calf muscles or the things that you weren't using to its full capacity in one sport. You may actually make yourself better at football if you're playing a different sport. Say you play basketball or baseball on the other end of things.
He sounds like a doctor because that's what some of those guys will tell. And they're starting to look at that same kind of thing research wise in injuries and causing injuries, and especially the female athletes right now because their concentration, the muscles are a little different, whatever, And but that's become a big deal, and I think they're absolutely right on that. And the performance, the same muscles, the same motions, the same things in one sport and not diversifying in another sport.
And you talk about, the brotherhood that happens with the players in football. If you play another sport, that's a whole nother group of people that, can support you and on down the line. It's like these things are forever. And if you do more things, it's like my daughters, and they know this, so it's not going to hurt their feelings. They're not going pro in soccer. Like they're there to have fun, stay in shape, make friends, stay out of trouble. Those are the big four things.
You're exactly right. Get good grades.
Yeah.
And when you're disciplined in those seasons, the grades will tell you in high school for sure. I mean, we've seen it at LO.
Oh, yeah.
While they're in a sport, they're a lot better students than they are. So their time is, it's specific and it's laid out and it's disciplined to get stuff done and all those things that really help in life too, which is part of sports. All the lessons you learn in sports, they need to keep learning them and learn them with different people, different coaches, different ways of dealing with. Again, you talk about baseball. It's a failure sport. Deal with baseball, striking. I remember my youngest son, he'd cry every time he struck out it. You know what I mean? They just want to throw the bat and everything else.
Yeah.
You got to learn to handle that stuff.
It's true. And I think that football always blew my mind how much it would change the guys in season. We'd be, and for the better. There are a handful of guys I can remember as almost a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde, because in the summer or in the off season when the coach isn't there, it was like almost like a wild man. And then right at the end of the summer, it was just like every one of them would turn so diehard and like, we're not going to parties. We're not doing this. We're not doing that because we're playing football now. And then they would all, grind it out together. And I always thought that was cool, more so than other sports, that like when you guys get in season, and I think other sports could take from that it really made these people lock in. And when you say like that their grades and everything suffer in the off season and not when they play football, I think it's got to be that structure.
I agree with you. And I see the same thing, with the way, and I think the school does. It's interesting if you talk to like our principal and vice principals and the AD and the people that are inside the school, the football season will dictate how the year goes almost. You know what I mean? And I'm not putting it on a pedestal, but exactly what you're talking about. So you have kids that come to the game and support. So there's a support system within the school. You have football players that we demand you treat people right. In fact, that's one of the only, I have two rules: do what's right, treat people like you want to be treated. So they're doing that. You know what I mean? I encourage them, hey, if a guy's sitting or a gal's sitting at lunch by themselves, go over there.
Yeah.
And it happens, not all the time. But what I'm saying is that sets the tone for how the school is. You can tell the leadership on a football team, at least at Lake O with us, you can tell in the camaraderie you have, it's going to transpire up in the school too. And really, we see it year in and year out. And sometimes it's not great. It's not great in the locker room, maybe.
Yeah.
So.
And you definitely help the rest of the school with the morale of when the team's doing well and you get into the playoffs and taking team bus or fan buses and the whole deal, like
because they're all of a sudden a part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
They're a part of the team, and it's really cool and all.
Well, and you can see it on me on college football Saturdays, we all get dressed up like we're going in.
Yeah, you're
You know,
right.
like I don't have the pads on, but I got my jersey.
Ready
I'm
to
all
go.
color
Give me
coordinated.
the call.
I mean, you pull up my pants, I might catch the socks in the right color too. You know, it's and in our mind as fans, it's how we're a part of it.
And we do a thing. It's been great, in those 9 or I think it was 8 or 9 the finals. We leave the high school, and each time that we've done that, there's people outside. There's signs. It goes all the way from where the school is, and if
Yeah.
you go by Westlake and all that.
Yep.
There's people all along the path. Honest to goodness, because they know it's advertised that way. Teams coming. And it's
That's
such
awesome.
a cool thing, and for young kids, and that's part of the hey, take this all in. Forget about the game. That'll take care of itself, whatever it is. But to have that bus ride, and have fans and neighbors and everything else, wish you luck on the way to the game. How cool is
It
that?
is
And that
so
doesn't
cool.
just happen. That's a small town atmosphere and everything else that Lake Oswego gives us.
And that is the thing about the city. And the house prices are going to go through the roof with the way we're talking about the place, like they already haven't. But it just shows, it's that type of place where people, they care on that level. And when you say small town, it's like almost impossible to have that feel so close to like a major city.
Right.
And here we are.
It's there. I walk around the neighborhood where I live, and I'll have people, and we live in an area where people walk by a lot. But I mean, there are so many people that, hey, congratulations, hey, great year, whatever. And I think, wow, I didn't even know that they knew that I don't advertise that I'm the coach.
Yeah.
They follow it. You know what I mean? And
yes,
that not only follow it, there's pride in it. They kind of feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah.
They appreciate what we do, and they thank you and everything else. I mean, it's such a small town within a big town. That's such a great community feel.
And it's really built up over time. I mean, it's so much different. Your program looks so much different than even when I was there in the 90s. Even though you were already the coach, it's still in kind of that early part of the process.
Sure. Putting it together.
What, first question is, have they inducted you into the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame yet?
Not that I'm aware.
No? What does it take? What does it take? Do you have to be retired to get in?
Maybe. I don't know. I really don't.
Who do I need to talk to?
Yeah,
Well, I know, but you don't need to think about it. But I mean, the statistics, when you're talking about going to 9-10 state championship games, when you're talking about winning 3 state titles, most schools don't go to 1 championship game or even go to the playoffs most years.
Yeah, you're right. It's been, again, so many people. I'm not patting myself on the back.
It takes a village.
It takes a village, and it takes a great town like we're from, and great families, and all those kind of things. And it's rare. It'd be interesting. I was talking again the other day with somebody about it. It'd be interesting to say, okay, in 34 years, is there another public school here that could give some of the statistics like I'm talking about, and again, and I'm just telling you that not for my purpose, but so many quarterfinals, so many semifinals, so many state finals. And I think we've had 1 losing season in my years, so, but it'd be interesting because there's been some great programs that, public school, like Roseburg, Coach Smythe's, years. I mean, on and on. There's some great coaches that have been around it, but it would be kind of interesting to see where does it kind of stack up, because it's been pretty darn consistent, with what we've done, which is a credit to all those people.
I think I can say it because it's a little easier than you saying it, is that I don't think anyone can. I mean, if that amount of time on the public school level, like not at a Jesuit style school, where you have all this other like money and stuff coming into it, I just don't see it being possible. When I'm not living in the city, I'm in the state. So they're pulling up state playoffs and newspapers and on the news and whatever. But like your face and your program is known across the state because you get to these deep games. And then it's like, oh, it's like Oswego again. And it's like a picture of you guys like celebrating in the paper or on Oregon Live. And that's the only reason, like I had seen you in passing at a friend of ours' funeral, and I didn't have to ask who you were because I knew you from the newspaper.
Right.
And so, at the high school level, at college level, I could point out the duck coach, of course, and the beaver coach and on down the line. But to be recognizable and to have your program constantly in the header is not easy at a high school level.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, I'm crediting all the people around me, and I really mean that because you couldn't do what we've done. But
Yeah.
it's been a great run. It really has. And again, the small town that you and I have been talking about too has been a big part of it. It really has been. And we still have a lot of people that come out to the games that had kids before, that now are grown up, but they still come and they still take pride in it, and that after the state championship game, there were more people down there congratulating me that were, old Lakers they were as happy as I was. They really were. I mean, so what a cool feeling. And again, it's that loyalty. It's a small town. It's Oregon. It's all the things we love. You and I love having our kids being raised there now, grandkids, on and on and on. That's what it's all about here.
It really is. And you've been able to ride it for quite some time, and you built a program and a legacy, and you've got what looks like a plan for it to continue through time. What is your plan? How much longer do you want to do it? As long as you're having fun? Do you have an end date?
I really don't have any kind of end date, and you'd be amazed at how many times I've been asked that, especially lately. And then some other years back, when my youngest son, Stevie, played for us. We won the championship in 2011. It was our first one that we won.
Nice.
And so after that, everybody thought I was done. It's like, that was like 2011. So I'm still here.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, I say, do you know something? I don't know. Maybe I should go.
And you peel off another 15 seasons.
So it's been great, and I don't have a plan. I really don't. I think I'll know when the time is right. God willing, I stay healthy, and that's always a big part of it. My wife's the greatest wife in the world, and she loves doing it, and so it's so much a part of our lives. And I spend 6 months out of the year with my best friends and with their families, and why would I give that up unless I can't do it anymore? I can't relate to the kids, or and I've lost that part of it. So I don't know, man. I don't know if it's another year, or if it's 3 years, or whatever.
I say you keep going. I mean, honestly, when you win a title too, it puts an energy back in you that you still got it, that you can still motivate these kids, and you've surrounded yourself with the younger coaches too that have come up. So I feel like it helps you to keep your finger on the pulse of it. Because we're going to age out of totally understanding them a little bit.
Right.
And so you just have to keep your finger on it, or at least have a coach who can let you know what they're thinking.
You're exactly right. And I think we've already kind of come up with a theme for next year, and that's repeat. Never been done here. It's hard to do, and so
at any level.
At any level. And so that's the motivating kind of, okay, good. That's kind of, it's up on the board, repeat. You know what I mean? So they're working to, so now you're
be hungry.
Exactly. So that's how you feel as a coach too. Hey, yeah, let's do repeat. That'd be something big time you could talk about. Hey,
and then the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame they better call in general. This is getting borderline obnoxious. Now I do want to say before we get you, before I don't have a chance to sit down with you anymore, when you're got these kids and you're coaching them up, what is the secret? Like what is it that you try to make the individual athlete, not the star, not the guy who's not paying attention, but just the average guy? Like what are you looking for them to take away from the program when they graduate?
I tell our coaches each year, and we're really, it's really part of the program, that I want the let's say I have 65 guys. I want the 65th kid on this roster to feel like the number one kid. So we make it a point that during the stretching period early in the season, our coaches go around to 6 guys while they're stretching and just get in a conversation with them. Now, not the guys they coach every day, but the other kids. And so what you do is you start getting around. So the kids know that, you have an interest in them first off, right?
Yeah.
And I go around to every kid during the stretch. And then the second thing is, we film our practices. And so I'm always picking things out of, hey, Drew, good block the other day on Johnny or whatever. You know what I mean? So now
they're seen.
Exactly. They're seen. They know I'm watching them, And then I tell them how important they are, and we treat them that way. That's the key. You know what I mean? To tell them, play your role, or hey, you're important. We need you. You know what? You got to show it and they got to feel it again, kind of like our kids, right? They got to
Yeah.
feel loved and they got to know and, on and on and on. So I think we do an exceptional job of that and making the kids feel a part of the program, no matter where they send. And you'll hear me getting on the superstars as much as anybody. Once in a while, I'll get on them just to get on them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean, so they hear me yell it. Last year it was Bam, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
So they know everybody's in this together and everybody's the same. So
I think that's smart to do it both ways, to pull the star back to earth, even though, and usually
it's
they
good
can
for
handle
them
it.
too.
They
Right.
can handle it. They could use an ego, suck out a little bit, but it also tells that person who is 65th, who you just told good block, that they're feeling good about themselves, that you're not going to play favorites,
Right.
and that, granted, you're the coach, you have to put the roster together, you have to have starters, you have to have the guy who's going to get the ball or the person who's the pinnacle of your defense, but that doesn't mean that they're a better person
Right.
than the other
Right.
person.
They're all the same that way.
Mhm.
They really are. And they're all held to the same standards, whether you're a starter or a guy that never plays. And I think if you were to talk to kids from past teams and even the kids that currently are on the team, I think they would tell you the same thing. I really do. I think, I feel good about what we do and how we do it and how we treat the kids. And we truly do love the kids. And that's where it all starts. Everything else fits in after that. Now, it's like disciplining our kids. If that has to happen, they may be mad at you or whatever for a day, a half a day. They think they're picking on them, whatever it might be. But in the end, they know I love them. They know I care about them. And they
Mhm.
know it's a lot more than just how much you're playing, how many touchdowns you're scoring, and on and on and on.
And you're not going to get on somebody who you don't care about, right? Because
Exactly.
you have an investment in this person, and
As a person.
and you're not
Right.
going to. It's a waste of energy if you don't care,
Right.
and so you clearly do.
You're exactly right. Yeah, we tell them if we're not yelling at you or talking to you or whatever,
Now be
now
concerned.
be concerned.
Well, whatever you've done it right. I'm very happy that we got a chance to sit down.
It's been a pleasure.
And I hope that a lot of people, not just in the town that we grew up, but all over the place, can get a chance to hear this and hear you, and maybe help build up some other programs. Not that you have to take on in other places.
Yeah.
We got to repeat here. But also, I just think there are great themes about the family stuff and how you care about these kids first and foremost, and that's what's helped transpire into victory, and to get those the plaques are on the wall in the right order. You've taken care of the kids and they've brought you home the titles.
Yep, that's exactly right. And that's really what it's been about. And it's all about, and again, I would say talk to the kids and see if that's the same feel they have, because I feel very confident they would.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much,
It's
Steve
great to be on the
Coury,
show, buddy.
the future Oregon Sports Hall of Famer.
If you have anything to do
I
with it.
said it first right here. And of course, a great football coach and a motivator of young men. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.